Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Tuesday, which means we have the BluePrint Power Hour, which will start in just a moment. Have you seen my Instagram Reels video today about my use of growth hormone? It's funny. You should check it out. Anyway, we want to thank our title sponsor before we get started, and that's none other than Legendary Foods, makers of the tasty pastry. I can't say enough about this product, to be honest with you. And one of the things I always talk about is how kids love them, and kids don't like protein bars. You can't get a kid to eat a Metrix bar, for instance, or even a Quest bar, because they don't taste enough like candy. Kids can't be fooled, but you will inevitably be fighting with your children not to eat all of your tasty pastries. I can guarantee that. And while the kids are enjoying them and you're enjoying them, you're not suffering. You're not feeling deprived because less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein, and you will swear that you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off not only these wonderful little tasty pastries, but also everything there. The seasoned almonds, flavored nut butters. Again, if you're a no-sugar, low-sugar person like me, you will fall in love with their website. And without further delay, let me cue up his music.
Calling all BluePrint Army. Fall in line. It's time for the BluePrint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Doing okay, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. Better than I should, to be honest. You know, people always say that to me, and I think, oh, they're full of shit. But no, when I look at my life and what I get to do as a job, I think I'm doing better than I should.
Yeah, me too. Right, we're blessed.
So speaking of blessings, how's Jennifer?
She is doing much better. She actually went to hormone doc today to get, make sure everything was in sync there. Looks like the vitamin D level needs to be brought up to get into the 50 or higher threshold. But
yeah, 50 to 80 is all she needs. That's what
and so we're, we bumped that up. I bumped that up even before she went a few days ago, telling her, you need to get to at least 50 because the research is just really pouring in now on D's ability to lower both incidence and severity of COVID and other infections, So
yeah, it's a magic hormone. It really is. Just don't take it at night. I've been talking about that for a long time. It's a daytime hormone, like melatonin is a nighttime hormone.
Yeah.
There are people who take their vitamin D late in the evening and they don't sleep well.
It's confusing the brain.
Yeah, yeah. How are you making all this? How are you making all this sunlight-driven hormone
Right.
in
It's
the
supposed to be
absence of
dark.
sunlight? Yeah. So, anything exciting going on that we need to promote? Is the BluePrint deal still going on? The
Yeah,
special?
yeah, we're in the final days now. Actually, I was going to end it at the end of January, but I think I'll give it another week maybe. The New Year, New You special, as I've mentioned before, by far the best special we have ever run, and it only happens once a year. Basically, $10 for $10. You get a 3 month subscription to the BluePrint Bulletin. You can get a sample issue if you don't want to even, trial that. But you'll also, along with those 3 months, will get access to the entire library, which is 112 plus issues strong right now. 400 plus topics, many of which are not discussed here. And you will also get access to something called the Ultimate Blueprint, which essentially is everything I've ever written, almost, on training and diet, in addition to a little bit of supplementation. Let me put it this way: it is likely the last training system you'll ever need. You'll ever need.
Yeah. So I'm also looking at the questions that we're getting. We're getting some good questions today, and we'll get to all of them. I promise.
Great.
We may have to get to them a little bit later in the show, but I promise we'll get to all of them. So if you can't stay and listen live, just come back later and check, and I'm sure we'll have answered your question. This one came early in an email from Art Barr.
Yep.
He says, a friend of mine suggested I try Bacopa Moneri, he's talking about. He says it's an herb that'll help me remember stuff. I guess mental acuity. Does it really work?
Well, this is just personal opinion, but Bacopa is one of the few good ones, in my opinion, at least when it comes to quote unquote herbal nootropics. So, actually, I consider Bacopa the Boswellia serrata, right, of nootropic herbs. It just doesn't get, it does a rock solid job, I think, but it doesn't get the play or the respect for some reason. So you almost never hear about it. Like many good ones, though, Bacopa was originally used in Ayurvedic or Indian medicine. So what have we seen from that? Cesis, ashwagandha, turmeric, right? Some pretty solid herbs and research behind those. It primarily works via strengthening the communication between the neurons via dendrite growth. And if you can do that, you increase the rate at which the brain communicates to the body, and it logically flows from there. At least in my mind, the amount of muscle that you can contract should be greater. It is also recognized as an adaptogen, which, as we mentioned here before, is any compound that allows your body or you to adapt to a particular environmental stressor. And they know from research that at least one of the ways that it does it, one of the big ways, is the ability to lower something called HSP70, or heat shock protein 70. It's a biomarker that rises when your body encounters various stressors. And the thing I always remember about it was I came across a study where they actually looked at gas station attendants who were exposed all day long to high levels of something called MMT, which is apparently some derivative of manganese, used as an anti-knock agent. And so after repeated exposure to that, their HSP, heat shock protein 70 levels rose dramatically. Bacopa is said to pretty reliably lower that, although it remains hotly debated topic. Studies also show that it works synergistically with GABA receptors, and so GABA, if you recall, is the big daddy, right, of inhibitory neurotransmitters. So we're talking about things either straight GABA itself, phenibut, which is crosses the blood-brain barrier a lot easier. Taurine, glycine, and their effect on the receptors. All of those modulate that system well. So Bacopa doing so is just a welcome addition as far as I'm concerned. More than one study shows it increases focus and attention. Likely, I think, due to that 1-2 punch of greater, neurotransmitter efficiency and more efficient GABA function. Other studies show better learning, memory formation, retention, all of the things that you would expect, memory consolidation, etc. There was another study showing what was faster information processing, working memory, stuff like that, accuracy in completing complex tasks. And then finally, there was a study that I saw in 2012, which I thought was particularly good. It showed improved information processing and decision making in these multitasking situations. And obviously, that's the world we live in. So, bottom line, I like to think of Bacopa as the foundation of a good herbal nootropic. I can't really quantify for you, faster nerve communication, but it does noticeably improve my mood. And the other thing it does, and most people will tell you this too, it wipes away brain fog. Really good. I know a lot of people that get that midday slump, 1, 2, 2:30, 3 o'clock even, and there's a lot of brain fog, and it seems to do away with that. So while it's nothing earth-shattering, there are distinct and worthwhile benefits, in my opinion. It's one of the few, I think, that works to any significant degree, but it's worth a try.
So I've been promoting Magic Mind because it literally allowed me to stop drinking coffee. And that was a mission of mine. If stopping drinking coffee isn't a mission of yours, don't worry about why I went for this. Guess what the second ingredient is in Bacopa?
Really? It's Bacopa?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't.
This stuff works, folks. When I take this before a show, I'm ready. And I'm not all jacked up on caffeine. It's just magic. We run ads for it. It's a great product. It really is. And my daughter wanted to stop drinking coffee. She drinks a lot of coffee. And she said that it's starting to bother her stomach. And I said, yeah. I never told her anything about my experience.
Yeah.
I was okay. And I told her about this. And she bought the 15-pack box. And 2 days later, she texted me and said, I can't believe, coffee didn't do this for me. I said, I know. Magic Mind is magic stuff. It really, really is.
Yeah. I can second the testimonials. I mean, I haven't used it yet personally, but I've had a number of people email me. Say,
yeah.
Hey, man.
It's a legit nootropic. I've taken a lot of nootropic blends, and they've really done very little for me. But this stuff is legit. If you're looking for a nootropic, this is it. Maurice Wilson says, I love the discussion about antioxidants and would like to know more about how long they stay in your system. Does it differ for all of them, or does it even matter?
What a great question, right? And to be totally honest, that's something I'm still working out myself because the universe of antioxidants is extremely large. So if you understand how oxidation occurs, though, it's actually a very natural process that's going on all the time, and it's not necessarily all bad. When the immune system kicks up to fight intruders, the oxygen that it uses spins off this army of free radicals, and it destroys bacteria, viruses,
cancer cells.
But on the flip side, yeah, they can do damage to healthy cells during this oxidative burst. And you see the same thing in exercise, but the end result there is, we are told anyway, better insulin sensitivity.
And in fact, I just want to throw something in here. One of the, we look at people that are so brilliant and we just believe everything they say. And in context, what they're saying may be accurate. But Aubrey de Grey came on my show at least 10, 11 years ago. He's the guy who wrote the theory of aging. It's the mitochondrial theory of aging. The mitochondria makes you age faster, he said. Why? Because it spins off free radicals.
Right.
And he came on my show and said, exercise isn't a good idea. You're just speeding your aging by spinning off free radicals. Now, obviously, that's not true. But in the lab, and where he discovered this stuff and wrote his paper, if there was nothing to quench oxidative stress, he'd be right. You just speed yourself along to aging. But the thing is that we need some free radicals and we also quench most of them. Exercise itself produces glutathione in response to exercise. So anyway, I just wanted to say that what we think we know about oxidative stress and what we actually know are very, very different. But go ahead. Now take it
Well,
from
my next point was in order to tell the whole story, I think it's vital to acknowledge the fact that the body has its own antioxidant mechanisms. And one of, if not the most powerful, is intracellular glutathione. But like everything else, it gets less powerful and efficient with age. It is also dependent on how well you take care of yourself, right? I mean, who do you think is going to have higher glutathione stores? Somebody who trains regularly, sleeps and eats well, or someone who doesn't, and spends most of their time hanging out with the Keebler elves. Of course, the person that takes care of themselves. The fact of the matter, though, is this. Yes, after satisfying the fundamentals, you can boost your body's antioxidant levels via supplementation. Uh, N-acetylcysteine will build glutathione levels. Good old vitamin C and E boost antioxidant levels. Alpha lipoic acid will regenerate both of them. The catechins from polyphenols, tannins, fluorotannins, mucopolysaccharides now they're finding in all kinds of fungi, and certain algae and various carotenoids can all do it as well. His question, though, and it's an interesting one, is what about timing? How long do these things last? And to me, that's probably the most intriguing one. Well, one thing we know is their half-lives can vary very widely. And so, as an example, the half-life of EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate from green tea, is around 30 minutes. Conversely, there's something from the sea, excuse me, that I cover in the bulletin that you can read about, whose antioxidants have a 12-hour half-life. So you're looking at once a day dosing, and they're actually shown to be much stronger than EGCGs. Now, that doesn't mean EGCG doesn't have benefits. On the contrary, it's a zinc ionophore, which means it helps zinc get into, the middle of the cell. This other stuff I mentioned, I don't think it has those properties, but it's an example, right, of an instance where you would want to use both of them. Quercetin, on the other hand, has a half-life of between 2.5 and 4.5 hours, at least in humans, and depending upon the oral composition. So they looked at liquids, solids, and gels. So it's important to know that as well. There are simple ways of extending that, though, quercetin's half-life, outside of frequent dosing all day to keep blood levels consistent. And it's a neat little trick. So finally, I look at my antioxidant strategy in a similar fashion to I do nootropics. I said prior with Bacopa, I like to start with a good base and then build out from there, right? And there's no better base in the antioxidant world, as far as I'm concerned, than C60. Okay. Now, I am not just towing the line. I'm telling it like it is. And you'll see that in the literature when you read it. If you are serious about your antioxidants, and you absolutely should be, in my opinion, you need to give that revived C60 stuff a go. Because, it is so powerful and long-lasting. If memory serves, you only had to take it part of the year.
It does build up. And I was just reading, there's a study, I just tried to pull it up real fast.
Yeah.
This was done it wasn't done. So when it's in an olive oil base, there's something magical about how fast it gets into your body. But you keep talking. I'm looking right now to see if I can extrapolate out real fast what the half-life looks like.
Well, when I first stumbled across C60, that was the case as well, at least in olive oil. There was a very distinct difference between those products, just C60 alone and C60 in olive oil, in terms of uptake, utilization, antioxidant potency, and how long it lasts in the body. And one of the other nice facets of it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's like alpha lipoic acid, in that it works as an antioxidant both in fat soluble and water soluble mediums. So, if you're looking for a one-shot antioxidant that lasts a long time, and then you want to add these other little ones to address other things, C60's it. C60's it.
So according to this study, C60 fullerene delivered in water only has around a 6.8 hour half-life. However, 99% of it is bound to plasma, which means it may not be detectable once it's bound.
That's right. I remember reading
And if, what does it mean that it detects? So the thing that makes CJC 1295 different than just plain old growth hormone releasing hormone is growth hormone releasing hormone has a half-life of like 19 seconds, something ridiculous like that. But when the complex is added to it to make it bind to albumin in the serum, it lasts 7 days.
So in other words, it ups biological activity.
Yeah, and it sticks around longer too. So the reality is that you do a loading phase with C60 and then a maintenance phase. And the maintenance phase is very little. It's like a teaspoon a day. We have a sponsor, and I want to plug them because the problem with C60 is the way it's manufactured. And they're not all manufactured the same. We found this company, and I wanted a C60 product for myself, quite frankly. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of the things that I bring to the show are out of selfishness that I want them. But C360 Health makes two different versions of C60 in olive oil exactly the same way. And in fact, they have a patented approach to it because they can actually get more fullerene into their olive oil than anybody else out there. If you want to try this stuff, it's amazing. I definitely noticed that when I take it before a workout, I can literally train longer. There's no doubt in my mind about it because I've experimented with it now.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I heard fairly consistently.
Yes, shrnetwork.biz/revive, REVIVE. That's the version I use. Elisa uses the Rejuvenate because it has a little hyaluronic acid in it. But use the code SHR. You'll save 15% off everything at their website. But, I don't take a lot of antioxidants. I just don't. But I take this because as far as I'm concerned, this is the king of – is it 470 – okay.
I was going to say, I look at it as my base.
Yeah.
Here's my base. Right?
Yeah, it's I forget if it's 470 times or 740 times more effective than vitamin C or any of those class of antioxidants. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, it's pretty profound, pretty strong stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful and it's very useful. All right, let's look at we have some live. So, here's our super fan, Richard Miller. He says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. As always, we are watching while training in Fort Worth, Texas." I love Texas. Elisa and I were actually talking about places we could move, and Texas came up in the list. And then Richard says, "Can you talk about sleep and non-dippers and heart health and ways to improve sleep if Delta 8 makes me sick and nauseous?" F. Neil Young. Yes, right on. Who is he? Who's Neil Young? Yeah, he made himself relevant. Nobody even knew who he was anymore. You want to talk about this first, and then I'll jump in, or I can lead, whichever way.
Why don't you lead, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
Non-dippers are very dangerous. If your heart rate does not drop during sleep, you are more prone to have a heart attack, either during sleep or during waking hours. It's a very, very dangerous thing. The first thing that you have to do in order to have your heart dip is stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed. This is the most profound. If you're eating right before bed, your heart rate's not going to dip because your body is working. The factory is open. The magic is to not eat past 3 hours before bed. I go to bed at 9 o'clock. I'm done eating by 6 every night. If I go out to dinner with friends and I eat at 8, I can see it in my heart rate. The other thing that screws heart rate up at night is alcohol. A lot of people, for whatever reason, think that because they get drowsy after a glass of wine, that it's actually making them sleep better. It doesn't. It makes you sleepy. But there's a big difference between being sleepy and sleep architecture. Anyone who knows what sleep architecture is, every 1.5 to 2 hours, you literally come out of sleep for a moment and then you go back down again. That's important. If you look at sleep quality, and let's say you're down in deep sleep all night long, your sleep quality is not good, because those rhythms that happen at night are critical, and that's part of sleep architecture. Alcohol will make you sleepy by increasing adenosine accumulation in the brain. Adenosine accumulation is what creates sleepiness. You work hard all day. Adenosine is cleaved from ATP. It accumulates in the brain, and it causes sleep pressure. Oh, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. Well, alcohol increases adenosine momentarily, so you get sleepy, but then it wears off. And then on top of that, the alcohol is a stimulant as well as a depressant. So in the middle of the night, you start waking up, and it's not sleep architecture. You wake up and you're up for a while, and then you go back to sleep. That's fragmented sleep. That's not good. The two biggest things I could recommend is don't eat 3 hours before bed, and don't drink alcohol, not even early in the day, because depending on how fast you clear it, it will fuck your sleep up. So that's my two. Go ahead.
My main tip was just going to be go to bed fasted, and beyond the heart machinations, there are benefits, big benefits. When is your biggest growth hormone, right? Pulse, throughout the 24-hour day, the first 90 minutes of sleep.
Right.
You're not going to get that if you load up on a belly full of carbs before bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might get the nods, you know, from the insulin rise and subsequent fall, but you're going to miss out on the growth hormone. The alcohol thing, it's interesting. I'll admit I didn't think about that. I don't know how much individual variability plays into it. I don't know if it's, you know, alcohol or no alcohol, or one glass or half a glass. I don't know. I would imagine in most people, at least until you get it worked out, cut all the alcohol and see if it makes the difference. You know, if it doesn't, then you got to look in a different area. So, yeah.
And don't forget, if you already have heart disease, you may be a non-dipper. So if you have pathological issues with your heart, you'll probably be a non-dipper, and that's probably why you're a non-dipper, because you have.
What would you think of a calcium screen in that event?
That's not going to affect the change in rhythm of the pulse.
No, but it will show. It will show, you know, calcification of the arteries if there is.
Well, if you have calcium buildup in the arteries, then your body, your heart is having a hard time pumping. You know, you're stepping on the hose. You know what I mean? And so yeah, but that's not gonna. That may be, you may become a non-dipper independent of that, but that might have some influence on it too. Horned Frog says, my YouTube name is Horned Frog because I went to college at TCU in Fort Worth. TCU mascot is a horned frog. So there you go. Texas, baby. Good place. And as a follow-up, and then we'll get to another question later, Richard says, I do all that. Was just curious about the connection between heart health and non-dippers. Thanks. Yeah, if your heart isn't dipping at night, you're setting yourself up for a heart attack. You have to figure out why, and you have to get that fixed. So that's a really important. That's one of the biggest, because if you're a non-dipper, your heart rate variability sucks.
Yeah, the machine's working. You know, it's like revving a car in neutral.
The whole idea of heart rate variability is how slow and how fast can your heart beat. When those two numbers are really far apart, you're strong. Your heart can slow down 40, 50 beats a minute, and it can speed up 200 beats a minute, and you're not having a stroke or a heart attack. You're strong. When your heart rate variability starts to narrow, when the top is 120 and the bottom is 90, and you're always in that zone, something's wrong. That's an indication of a pathology. It is. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take our first commercial break. And when we come back, we have lots more questions. Please post your questions live. We'll get to every one of them, I promise. And we shall return in just a moment. Stay tuned. You are watching the Blueprint Power Hour on Superhuman Radio. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/mypillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. The holidays are over, and it's time to set your eyes on new goals for the new year. In the thick of winter and sick season, it's more important than ever to support your immune system so that you are strong, healthy, and able to tackle your 2022 goals. Did you know that one of the biggest ways you can boost your immunity is by supporting your gut health? It's true. In fact, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. That's why it's time to get Biome Breakthrough. Biome Breakthrough has powerful probiotics, prebiotics, as well as a one-of-a-kind ingredient called IGY Max. IGY Max is a patented egg-based protein that enhances gut health, reverses damage caused by antibiotics, and even helps with immunity threats. By taking Biome Breakthrough daily, you'll eliminate bad bacteria, feed good bacteria, build up your immunity, and repair your gut lining all at the same time. Go to shrnetwork.biz/biome and use code SHR for 10% off and get a full year, no questions asked satisfaction guarantee. Verso contains potent compounds proven to increase NAD+. NAD+ is arguably the most important molecule in the body, and without it, you would die in less than 30 seconds. It's responsible for a number of physiological processes, one being that it guides longevity genes called sirtuins to direct cells in the body to perform their jobs. NAD+ levels drop with age, and when they're low, there isn't enough to guide sirtuins, so your cells start to break down. This explains why the body ages and consequently wrinkles appear. There is less benefit to exercise, it takes longer to recover, and an older body is not resilient like a young body. Start reversing biological age now. Go to shrnetwork.biz/verso and use the code SHR for 20% off plus free shipping on your bottle of Verso today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Hey, welcome back. I got to tell you, I'm really excited about this. So thanks to Natalie Kapitsky, who is really the producer of the show when you think about the video, because she's in the background doing all the stuff and the graphics. And makes me look intelligent. She just messaged me to let me know that we now stream live on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Rumble, and I believe on Getter. So, I mean, now those platforms I don't think can participate. Twitter can, because I see the Twitter button here, but a lot of those other they can't ask questions and comment, but they are able to watch the live broadcast now. How cool is that?
Well, yeah, we should take bets on how fast we'll be banned from certain other platforms.
Oh yeah, no, we're on LinkedIn too. It was Getter. Thank you, Brian. Brian is my official, unofficial, official right hand man here. And yeah, we are on LinkedIn, but I don't know how long we're going to be on LinkedIn. I got to be honest with you. I don't see the participation, and they take me off for everything. I mean, like the fact that I have commercials in my podcast, they take me down and say that I'm breaking their rules. So we'll see. We'll stay on there as long as we can, but they're trying to make it harder and harder. Kind of stuff. All right, we will get to everybody's questions. I see questions being posted, but right now we're going to go to this question from Larry Rinaldi. He said, "What's the deal with spirulina? Remember, it was so popular 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I remember it was hot stuff back in the day. It's been around forever, but I'm not sure if it's good for anything. What are your opinions?"
Well, it has seemingly been around forever on the supplement market, at least as far back as 1985, when I remember seeing it in health food stores. It is commonly referred to as blue-green algae, one of the oldest life forms on Earth, it turns out. It grows in both freshwater and saltwater environments. It is known primarily for its big micronutrient and protein content. Believe it or not, it has all the essential amino acids. Metabolic syndrome is something that it has shown over and over in studies, metabolic syndrome and obesity, to be of some benefit. And while there are several other supplements that are being evaluated for such, spirulina has been shown in, depending upon what study you look at, antiviral, anti-cancer, antioxidant, right, anti-inflammatory, protects the liver, protects the heart and lungs, and boosts the immune system. And so they've also run several trials on weight loss. So some of the highlights from that. The clinical trials in humans using spirulina include a mix of healthy patients, as well as people with incredibly screwed up lipids, hypertension, post-ischemic heart disease, diabetes, kidney issues, the whole 9 yards. But when you look at the human data in its totality, what you find for spirulina is the following. It seems to improve the well-established cardiovascular disease risk factors, including, lowering high lipids, or at least what the medical community considers high. Seems to provide benefits around other elements of weight loss as a whole. Supplementing it in gram amounts, anywhere from 1 to 5 grams a day, showed, again, in various studies, lipid lowering effects, total cholesterol lowering, triglycerides, LDL not being oxidized, which for me was a big one, right? Because I'm always talking about it's not high cholesterol, it's oxidized cholesterol that'll kill you. It seems in other studies to improve insulin resistance, its antioxidant values. I don't know if they've been quantified on the ORAC scale, but they're up there. It also shows dose-dependent antiviral properties in both test tubes and animals. Now, I'll be the first to say, there's not enough data yet in humans. If you're interested in it, the human equivalent dosages are anywhere from very reasonable, 400 milligrams to 2 grams, 2,000 milligrams a day. So, while the human data isn't there yet, it's not exactly vitamin D in that respect, there's potential for it, I would say, in that area. And here's the big thing about it, though, and it's why I give it a thumbs up when people ask me about it: the cost to benefit ratio. Now, I just rattled off a pretty extensive list, right, of possible benefits, and that was not all of them. The stuff, depending upon where you get it, is cheap, very reasonable. You can find a bottle of 90 caps, 500 milligrams of spirulina for between $5 and $10. Still, to this day, it's been out there a while. It sells. It continues to sell. It's not something you're going to see a sports nutrition benefit from, but in terms of general health, for the price and what it potentially does, I say it's worth a try. It's worth a shot.
I had a sponsor from Canada one time, and he had different types of algae and pills, green and blue. And he came on the show and said it's the only supplement you should take. And I let him go because that's bullshit. I mean,
no one supplement.
No, I know, but I will say that there are some really interesting studies on using different types of algae in feed for cattle, and how it increases the production of milk in milk and dairy cows.
I saw those.
Very small amount. There's something there. There's something that is it the only thing you should depend on? Absolutely. There's nothing that's the only thing. Nothing. And saying something like that is an insult to the complexity of the human body. Yeah. But there is something there. There's no doubt about it. It's worth investigating. Would I go out of my way to use it? Probably not.
Right. It's not going to be the first thing you buy.
Yeah, but I mean, there is something interesting there. So let's go here. Gordon Keith has a question. He has two questions. He says, Carl, whatever happened to your high dose oxytocin experiment being similar to trenbolone? It's working. It really is. I'm not just saying that. I use about 125 IUs of oxytocin post workout, and then I use it once more throughout the day. And it's part of my stack. Because I take GHRP6 with it, I don't get the rush. So the magic with taking high doses of oxytocin is to combine it with GHRP6, because that suppresses the release of vasopressin. Oxytocin causes a rise in vasopressin, and that's what gives you the head rush and makes your heart pound. All the same things that happen after an orgasm. When you're having sex and you have an orgasm, could you jump out of bed and start running? No. You're like, your heart's pounding and you're like, oh my God. And you lay there for a couple minutes and then you get sleepy. Well, that's the result of vasopressin. But GHRP6 blunts the release of vasopressin. So if you're somebody who says, like somebody texted me the other day and says, I can't use oxytocin, it makes me feel horrible afterwards. And I said, just add, if you're going to take 100 IUs of oxytocin, take about 100, 150 micrograms of GHRP6. You don't feel anything. Nothing. You may feel hungry afterwards for the GHRP6, but that's the way to deal with that. And it's definitely one of the reasons that I have added so much muscle in a very recent short period of time, because I'm back on it again. I'm using it regularly. I took off for a while. I get tired of doing stuff sometimes. And then he said, Rob, I read in the BluePrint bulletin about your IGF-1 long R3 experiment. Does LR3 need to be receptor grade? Receptor grade is 3 times the cost at Peptide Sciences. What do you think?
Well, I won't go into the whole protocol, but suffice it to say, I don't think they even had receptor grade stuff back when I did that. And so I guess that begs the question, would receptor grade stuff be an even better, would you get better results? The honest answer is I don't know. I mean, you would think you would, because of the additional cost, because of its quote-unquote receptor grade. Theoretically, it's better. Is it better in every instance? It's tough to give a blanket answer, yes or no. I can say that the results that I got, which were very interesting, I got without the receptor grade stuff. I don't recall even seeing that there at the time.
I'm gonna text somebody. Just give me a second, because I don't even know what receptor grade means. It's like what does receptor grade really mean? Are you telling me that all the other stuff isn't working except it doesn't even make sense. So give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the actual definition of receptor grade as it relates to IGF-1 long R3? What does it even mean, receptor grade? So here's what I think it is. I think it's the purity. I think that's what it is. You know what I mean? I got a feeling.
I have a hard time believing the old stuff didn't interact with the
Yeah.
IGF-1 receptor. You know, it's IGF-1. It should fit like a glove.
Hold on a second. Whenever I speak things because of my accent, okay, I'm sending this to a guy who's an expert, whose opinion I trust. I'll get the answer for the receptor grade thing here in a couple minutes, or maybe the next show. Let's see here. So Richard said he does all that. Just curious about the connection between heart rate, health, and non-dippers. I just thought of something else that may make you a non-dipper if you're overtrained. If you're overtraining, your heart rate will not drop at night, and that could be one of the first symptoms of overtraining.
That's a good point because I've talked forever about taking it first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed as a gauge of overtraining, right? 8 beats or more per minute above baseline, you're overtraining. Why wouldn't that be going on while you're sleeping? You know, maybe a less intense version of it, but it would still be going on artificially, you know, elevating it.
Dan Quibble says meh, MEH, which I think means like what, like big deal or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know if he's speaking to the show or something we talked about. But if he's still watching, maybe he can clarify what that means. So Matt Perry has a question. He says, "Hey, Carl and Rob, love listening to you guys while I fix trucks. Thank you for fixing trucks because apparently truckers are the new heroes. Proud to say my father was a lifelong over-the-road trucker and a Teamster." He says, "I'm 37 and planning on starting TRT due to consistently low levels. Due to my living situation, injections may not be feasible. Would pellets be an acceptable application until I'm able to do injections? Love the BluePrint newsletter too. Signed up during the deal and have been reading through past issues. It is an invaluable resource."
Thank you very much.
Plug the link again. We have a link here. Hold on a second. Let me do this. As long as people are saying this stuff, let's just put this up. You can go to. Shoot, I can't read it. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. This is what happens when you produce your own shows. You can go to shrnetwork.biz/coachrob, COACHROB. You don't need a coupon code or anything. Just use that link, and you can get 3 months of the BluePrint Bulletin for $9.99. Very, very easy to do. Very easy. Yeah. Oh, you'll get a lot more, right? And access to so much more. Okay, back to the show. So he says, so what do you think about the pellet, Rob?
Well, I happen to know a fella and a woman on pellets, and they, at least for purposes of quality of life, seem to do just fine on it. Now, I can't imagine the inconvenience. I think it's every 3 months or 4 months they have to fly to the doctor's office and then, you know, re-input, you know, new pellets and whatnot. I am not aware of any studies comparing blood levels between, for example, pellets and transdermal gel. I would think the transdermal gel would be something that would be the one that you would want, given at least to some degree you can control how much, when, right? What the blood levels are going to be like a couple hours from now, a couple days from now, that sort of thing. Pellets from a performance enhancement perspective, I doubt it. I doubt it's the best option, even when you're taking injection off the table.
The problem I have with pellets is the long duration. So the further we get away from the daily pulse of testosterone, the more likely you are to have unwanted effects. That's why I'm not a big fan of the testosterone undecoinates, which, you know, you go for one shot a month or one shot every 2 months. But that being said, if you have no other option but the pellet, then do it.
Right.
The pellet is, you know, they'll put one pellet in. You know, it's the size of a maybe half-inch long, and it's round. It looks like a little barrel, and it looks like it's chalk. It looks like it's made out of chalk. and they just make a small little incision in your hip, maybe an inch long. They put it in there, and then they put a butterfly Band-Aid on it. It heals up, and you're off. Some people have to go every couple months. Some people every 3 months. It just depends on how quickly your body absorbs it and supplies it. So it's different for everybody. But like I said, gel is not an option if you have young children around.
Right.
I tell you that right now.
Transfer.
And maybe injection isn't an option when you have young children around either, because then you have to explain to them that daddy's not an intravenous drug user. He's on testosterone or something like that. Maybe it's something like that for you. So if the pellet is all you can get, I absolutely would do it. You're much better off with a less desirable form of hormone replacement therapy than none at all.
Right, than your own crappy production.
Yeah. We are actually going to take a break, and we've got a lot of questions we're going to get to. All of them are live questions from viewers. So please, and I notice when we go into the break, we lose a bunch of listeners, and then as soon as the show comes back, they come back. Do me a stop, just this one time. Don't shut the app or close the link during the commercial break. Just tough through it with us. How about that? We're going to take one quick commercial break. We'll be right back, and we'll answer the rest of your questions. Stay tuned. MK Supplements grass-fed beef liver is from 100% pasture-raised New Zealand cattle. Unlike other manufacturers, they use a gentle freeze-drying method to turn fresh liver into a powder before filling it into gelatin capsules. Additionally, they don't use hexane or any other harsh chemicals to defat their organ meat. From the glass container and metal lid they use to package their products to the recyclable shipping materials they use for delivery, their goal is to provide the highest quality, most eco-friendly supplements on the market. Go to shrnetwork.biz/liver and use code SUPERHUMAN to receive 15% off your order today. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHK-Cu, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expression of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restora Cell's stem cell awakening serum, along with their other products, contains potent formulations of blue copper peptides and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. Remodel your skin today. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Verso contains potent compounds proven to increase NAD+. NAD+ is arguably the most important molecule in the body, and without it, you would die in less than 30 seconds. It's responsible for a number of physiological processes, one being that it guides longevity genes called sirtuins to direct cells in the body to perform their jobs. NAD+ levels drop with age, and when they're low, there isn't enough to guide sirtuins, so your cells start to break down. This explains why the body ages and consequently wrinkles appear. There is less benefit to exercise, it takes longer to recover, and an older body is not resilient like a young body. Start reversing biological age now. Go to shrnetwork.biz/verso and use the code SHR for 20% off plus free shipping on your bottle of Verso today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
The holidays are over and it's time to set your eyes on new goals for the new year. In the thick of winter and sick season, it's more important than ever to support your immune system so that you are strong, healthy, and able to tackle your 2022 goals. Did you know that one of the biggest ways you can boost your immunity is by supporting your gut health? It's true. In fact, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. That's why it's time to get Biome Breakthrough. Biome Breakthrough has powerful probiotics, prebiotics, as well as a one-of-a-kind ingredient called IGY Max. IGY Max is a patented egg-based protein that enhances gut health, reverses damage caused by antibiotics, and even helps with immunity threats. By taking Biome Breakthrough daily, you'll eliminate bad bacteria, feed good bacteria, build up your immunity, and repair your gut lining all at the same time. Go to shrnetwork.biz/biome and use code SHR for 10% off and get a full year, no questions asked, satisfaction guarantee.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. Okay, so here's the skinny on receptor grade, especially as it relates to IGF-1.
Okay.
The biochemists use a different form of E. coli during the recombinant manufacturing process for receptor grade peptides. These peptides have greater affinity to the receptor. Think of magnets, okay? And if you've ever played with rare earth magnets, you know that they stick together hard. You can't even get them apart. Well, that's what we talk about when we say affinity. Some androgens have greater affinity to the androgen receptor than testosterone, like trenbolone. That means that when they get in that receptor, they stay there a lot longer. Okay? So basically, IGF-1, long R3, receptor grade just stays in the receptor longer to command those changes that you're trying to command. And we've busted more myths about peptides on this show over the years. But the most fascinating one that we busted not too long ago was the fact that, you know how everybody, you got to swirl your growth hormone or your peptide, be gentle with it. I had somebody on YouTube one time tell me that I squirted the solution into the vial too hard, and I probably damaged all the peptides. So let me tell you a secret that you may not have heard before on my show, but you'll hear it now. When they lyophilize, fancy word for freeze dry, when they lyophilize a peptide, they put it in the vial and they add sterile water to it, and then they put it in an ultrasonic bath. Now think about that. Ultrasonic bath. Ultrasonic is what, like 180,000 oscillations a second?
Yeah, but that doesn't kill it.
Is there anything not as violent as an ultrasonic bath? You think shaking it's going to break the peptide? It's been an ultrasonic bath to make sure that all of the peptide is evenly dispersed in the liquid before they freeze dry it. So when people tell you, you put it in there too fast, you broke all the peptides, look at them with confidence and say, no, I didn't, asshole. Because it was in an ultrasonic bath before I got it. And if that didn't break all the peptide bonds apart, nothing's going to.
Right.
I mean, come on, if it was that fragile, it would break apart in your body.
Or in shipping to you.
Or anywhere. Yeah, exactly. It's just people. But these are the bro science / things that people have believed for a long time, and you got to clear them up one at a time, and you got to say it over and over again, because I'm sure that a lot of people still don't believe what I just said, or they didn't hear it, or whatever. So anyway, let's get back to more questions here. Great. So Horned Frog says, what are your thoughts on transdermal supplements when compared against oral?
Completely depends on the compound.
Exactly.
Question, and the carrier, as to whether or not the carrier, will envelop it and then ultimately carry it through your skin. But
more importantly, what you said first and foremost, it depends on the compound. So anything that is injected, because that's the only way to get it into your body, does well with transdermal. But I wouldn't use transdermal creatine. I wouldn't use transdermal L-arginine. I wouldn't use transdermal vitamin C. I wouldn't use any of those things because they have no problem being absorbed, and the doses you have to take. Most transdermal vehicles, 10% is the most that they can hold. I used to be the guy who taught people how to compound anabolic steroids in Flow Gel Ultra, and I had ways of getting 30% into that vehicle. But that's only for things that are best injected. If it's not best injected, then don't bother.
My benchmark was always, look, if this thing has a molecular weight higher than 400, it's not going transdermal, because DMSO will help some compounds get through the skin at a molecular weight of 500. It's a pretty sure bet that anything above 400, without a penetration enhancer like that, or even with, is not going to go.
So the next
depends on the compound. Short answer.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Richard Miller says, I mentioned hanging it up one day, and I will. So when you do, and you guys move to Texas, train me to be the next host of Superhuman Radio. Look, I know this is a tongue-in-cheek, but I am going to look for somebody else, because I have a project I'm working on that's going to take all my time, and I can see myself phasing out this year. By the end of this year, starting to use other people to host the show.
Wow.
If everything goes well. And everybody knows what that is if you've been listening. I'm introducing a firearm proximity system called Gunny. And that's going to take all my time. And I'm ready to get off the air anyway, to be honest with you, because I'm so tired of people repeating the same things over and over again in this space. It's like I want to scream every morning when I hear some guru expert come out and talk about something that we discussed 10 years ago.
Right.
I did a post on Instagram the other day, and I said being the first isn't always the best. And I've learned that the hard way. Here's a question from R. Vasquez, 818, watching on YouTube. He said, good morning, gentlemen. What is, and it could be, I don't know, it could be a gal, whoever, sorry. What is the best body weight exercise one can do with limited time and space? Any thoughts on Nordic hamstring curls?
Well, I'll take this first. With respect to body weight exercises in a very limited space, you use the term singularly. So the quick answer there is probably the bridge. Training the stand-to-stand bridge, which is going to take you a long time. Take most people a very long time. It works every muscle in the body and the internal organs. So if you got to pick one, that would be it. That being said, if you have room to do bridges, you have room to do body weight squats. You have room to do one-legged body weight squats. You have room to do, they're called drinking birds. It's simply standing on one leg, keeping that leg straight, reaching down, touching your toe, elevating the non-working leg to parallel, and then coming back up. You can gratefully add quite a bit of weight to that. I mean, I've done that with 100 pounds, 90 pounds or 80 pounds of kettlebell and 20 pounds of vest. So you can really push things up there. In terms of the upper body stuff, again, your push-ups, your pull-ups, certainly progressing to the one arm if you so choose, handstand push-ups for the shoulders. There is a universe of body weight exercises and variations out there, and I would encourage you to pick up either Convict Conditioning or a book. He actually has a series. He has four or five books now, but the original is probably the best. Alternatively, the Cavallado brothers, I think it is, in New York City. Al and his brother, forgive me, I forget his first name, but they're rock solid stuff. They're rock solid on the body weight stuff too, and so that would be your answer there. The Nordic hamstring curl, I have to admit, I'm not familiar with what a Nordic hamstring.
I think that's the one where you put your heels under something, and your knees are on it, and so you basically, your upper body goes down, and then you pull yourself back up again with your hamstring.
Manual hamstring curls are certainly a demanding movement. My issue with them has always been, how do you train them safely? Because it is a very rare individual that is going to be able to pull one off, right, the first time they do it. Most of the time, you're going to get somebody who tries it and then, boom, falls flat on their face. Now, that's bad enough, but imagine tearing a hamstring in the process.
Mm-hmm.
They will also tear hamstrings because they're trying to make the movement easier. When they get to the bottom, instead of a slight pause, they're going to bounce, right? And that's a lot. That's a lot of force in the wrong place, and that never ends well.
I used to do them, and I'm a heavy. My upper body is heavy,
Yeah.
and I always did them with either a bar or a pole or even a broomstick.
Yeah.
And so you're up in the kneeling position, and as you start to go down, you've got the broomstick. You're driving it into the ground, and you just go hand on the hand on the hand on the hand, and then at the bottom you can give yourself a little push up and start the movement. But that bar or pole is all the difference between an injury that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life and actually doing the movement.
Yeah, it is worth keeping in mind too that Lombard's paradox, right? I mean, you can't do a squat motion without using your hamstrings, and so do you need to train them as much directly as your other muscle groups? Probably not. At least if you're not going to enter some body weight contest doing manual hamstring curls.
Aiden Ray says, thanks for another great show, gentlemen. Any updates and suggestions on CJC 1295 Ipamorelin 5x5 dilution dosing? Yeah, I use CJC 1295 and GHRP 6. So it's 5 milligrams of each in that vial. I put 4 mLs of bacteriostatic water for injection in there. And then a tenth of a milliliter is 125 micrograms of each, I believe. And that's an adequate dose. If you're starting to feel hungry after your shot, you can actually back down. You don't need that much to stimulate a growth hormone pulse. But that's it. And it's very simple. Very, very simple.
Yeah, I've been out of the world of peptides for a while. I'm going to be jumping back into it, though, very shortly, because I have some thymosin alpha-1 and I think LL37 that's expiring in a couple of months that I've had for a while from Peptide Sciences. But look, I've said many times, peptides are the future. If you think about it, what are they? Strings together of 2 amino acids or more. And they get to be incredibly long, and they do incredible things. They'll turn you tan. They'll fix injuries. I mean, think about that. Well, if we do get a muscle growth supplement out there, a breakthrough, it's probably going to be a peptide, because the combinations are infinite, and they can obviously strongly affect biological processes.
So these 2 questions are interesting. Any recommendation? So Chad, is that an I or an L, is watching on YouTube. Any recommendations to help foot pain and numbness? And then the next question is about foot pain also, but these are very different, I feel. So this could be you're borderline insulin resistant and have been for a long time, and you could be developing some neurological issues in your feet, the numbness part, or it could be the earliest signs of L4, L5 compression, and your sciatic nerve is being pinched off. It just depends.
Yeah, I strongly suspect I have the latter going on. A little over a week ago, I got stupid, got carried away, pushing and pulling a really heavy weight, at least for me. And ever since then, I had a lower back issue that resolved. What has not resolved is the glute, the hamstring, and the calf is extremely tight, and I'm limping noticeably now because this calf, whenever I put pressure on it or roll to the ball of my foot, and it's not like a tear or a pain. I just don't have the strength to contract the muscle like I should be to walk normally.
And that's sometimes the earliest signs of muscle a compression of a nerve. So that compression can happen in 2 places. It can happen in the spine, where the nerve roots exit and come down the glutes and down into the hamstrings and then around to the front of the leg. Or it can happen in the piriformis. The piriformis muscle is at the base of the glutes. It's where the balls of your ass are when you sit.
Right.
And the sciatic nerve passes through the piriformis muscle. And sometimes you can compress it there. It just depends. One of the things that I feel is so critical, especially if you do movements that load the spine heavily, because the lumbar region is where all the compression ends up happening, is an inversion table. Get in the upside down position. Go slowly. If you get an inversion table, just start out laying, on a slant. Don't go right upside down, because you will find out that will injure you worse. You got to let your body get used to that, your soft tissue, but eventually get to the point where you're hanging upside down. You'll feel like I have pain in my legs from my lumbar spine because I have compression L4, L5, and S1 from years of deadlifting and squatting. And I can literally hang in that inversion table for as little as 5 minutes and walk away with no pain.
Wow.
That's how I know it's working.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I have no pain.
And it's neurological. That's how you know it's neurological.
So that's something you can check out. But you also need to take a look at your blood sugar in the morning and make sure you're not becoming insulin resistant, because that will always damage periphery nerves, hands and feet. Some people say they call it socks and gloves. You start to get numb in the ankles and feet. You start to get numb in the hands. That's more metabolic than direct nerve compression. Yeah. Now, this next question, I know what it is already because I lived with it. So Chester LP77, who's watching on YouTube, says he's asking you about your tight muscles. Now, you already started talking about it. He says, I got tight calves and bad heel pain in the morning. That right there is a tip. I know exactly what he has. I think it's due to heavy work boots and long hours of standing. I use daily infrared massage device. What you have is actually called Plantar Fasciitis. So what happens is, whether it's from heavy working boots, standing all day, or something that you've been doing with your feet, you're starting to pull the soft tissue, the actual tendon that comes down from the sheath of the calf muscles, and we're talking about both gastroc and soleus, and they attach right on the heel and under the heel. Okay, and what happens is, if you do something to start pulling those away from the bone grows out to stay attached to them. And you end up with these spurs. And if you experience this where you're fine all day long, you're moving around, but you wake up in the morning and you can't even walk. The pain is excruciating, and you got to walk for a little while, take little steps, and then it starts to break in, and maybe an hour later the pain is kind of gone and you're able to walk again. That is classic plantar fasciitis. And I'm going to tell you a secret, because I had it real bad. I got it from doing toe presses with 700 pounds on a leg press machine. Yep. And I would let my foot come all the way back, and stretch. And I gave it to myself, both heels. Well, we were in Florida for spring break, taking the kids to spring break. And every morning I woke up, oh my God. Oh, it was just so painful. It was like you can't even explain it to people. But then it goes away and you're fine for the rest of the day. Yeah. So what's happening is, in the morning, the soft tissue is trying to heal. But the skin that the soft tissue is laying down has no elasticity. So in the morning, you're tearing all of that healing back up again. That's what you're doing. So the problem is that the body, because soft tissue is avascular, the body isn't really going and fixing the problem. Here's what I ended up doing by accident. I was so pissed off at myself about this pain. I was walking along the beach and I was so angry. I just started driving my heels into the sand. I mean, driving them, bow, 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 bow. And I just kept doing this for like 15, 20 minutes, because I'm thinking to myself, you fucking bastard, you're going to go away one way or the other. Son of a bitch, if the next day it wasn't gone. Wow. You know what I discovered? The fastest way to get rid of plantar fasciitis is truly go in there and injure it. really injure it. Go in there and drive your heels into the ground, because then your body goes, holy shit, we got to fix this now. This idiot's going to tear his feet off if he's not careful. And it was gone in 2 days. I didn't have it anymore. And I've told this secret to so many people, and I know people probably think, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. That would be the worst thing to do. It's actually not. Because if you look at all of the itises, whether it's tendonitis, bursitis, it's because the soft tissue isn't healing fast enough. You have to go in there and make the body pay attention to it. And if you can get to a beach, or even go get a couple bags of playpen sand from Home Depot, and put it in a kitty litter box, and sit down while you watch TV and just ram your heels into that over and over again, I'll bet you anything that in a couple days it'll be gone.
I might give it a shot.
It works. It
We'll
works. And we're going to round these up. As soon as we get these other questions answered, we're going to go right to the blueprint tip of the day. So Horned Frog says transdermal laxogenin or epicatechin. I don't think so.
I haven't seen anything dramatic with respect to the transdermal application of those two things. I haven't seen anything dramatic, I would say, from the oral ones either. So it's a matter of expectations in my mind. If you're looking, laxogenin is starting to develop, I think, a fairly decent reputation, at least insofar as I'm hearing, my joints don't hurt nearly as bad. I have a lot less pain. I can do a little more work and I recover a little bit faster. If that's your benchmark, great. If you want to try transdermal, go ahead. Laxogenin's, I forget what the exact molecular weight is, but I recall thinking, yeah, that could be done in a transdermal. As far as the epicatechin goes, it's not without research either. It does a number of things well. Is putting it in a transdermal base, does that make sense? I would have to look up the molecular weight. It's really, those are two products where, they're not going to be the first things you buy. You're not going to get the most dramatic results from them. They're that maybe last little bit, hey, I've got some extra spending money this month. Let me give it a whirl.
But you'd have to take more. So an effective dose of epicatechin is 250 milligrams orally. You're not going to get 250 milligrams delivered through your skin, and especially if you can't do this with every compound. Like I tried to do it with ginger extract as a local analgesic.
Yep.
It turned into gum because of the oil in the ginger extract. It's like there's no need for transdermal epicatechin. And if you're only getting 10% through the skin, let's say, then to get a 250 milligram dose, you're going to have to put 2.5 grams in that one dose.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes to mind is NASA has studied epicatechin, believe it or not, for long duration space flight, and they were not using transdermal, and I'm quite sure if it had benefits of way above and beyond oral, they'd be doing it, but they didn't. So
real quick, Richard Miller says, can I use an inversion table with an L5S1 fusion and a left hip replacement? I wouldn't try it.
My knee-jerk reaction was no.
Yeah.
But then I thought to myself, well, he doesn't have to go for the gusto, right? 90 degree up and down right off the bat. You could get a very, very subtle angle to see whether or not that does anything for you.
I wouldn't do it. I don't know. Were these fusions surgical fusions, or did they fuse over time? Number one. And number two, I don't know that a hip replacement is designed to weather the weight. So, a hip replacement is designed to have weight hitting at a certain angle. Now you're hanging upside down. Are you going to pull that prosthesis away from the bone that it's fused into? I wouldn't do it personally. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a good point. I obviously asked the doctor. I think I know what he or she was going to tell you, just to play it safe. But that's a tough one. A chiropractor may be a better doctor to consult, because what I've noticed anyway is, instead of just saying no, a chiropractor is more likely to say no, but here's what you could do. let's try this.
Well, I was just going to say there's another type of inversion table that you sit in, and so your body is suspended from the hips, not the ankles. That might be an option for you. He had surgically fused with rods and screws. Carmela Cierzo says she's in Canada. She says Quebec gyms finally opened up February 14th. Will finally open up 50% capacity.
John, did you see the study just released by John Hopkins?
No, what?
Found that, closing all these things down and going into lockdown had no benefit. In fact, they said the only effects that it did have were horrible effects on the economy and people's mental health and physical health.
Sure. And let's not forget, I feel bad for Trudeau because did you hear he caught a virus? It's called Coward-19, not COVID-19. Well, Coward-19. You know what? I hate Biden and these people up here, but I got to tell you, I feel sorry for the Canadians because what he's done to Canada is horrible. They should hang him. They should take him out and fine him for treason and hang him. They really should because he's disgusting.
Yeah, they obviously don't enjoy the kind of freedoms that we do, and the government, Trudeau in this case, can move unilaterally. It's just terrible. Those truckers, they raised $10 million on GoFundMe, more than any political party in Canada in the last quarter.
And did you hear a politician wants to seize that money?
Yes.
But meanwhile, nobody ever tried to seize a Black Lives Matter's money. Even though it was really secretly going to the Democrat Party, nobody ever suggested, let's seize their money. Look, the time is coming. Everybody sees what's happening now. The reality is the minority is, in fact, not the majority. The minority is the politicians, the liars, the corrupt idiots out there. They're going to get their due. They will. Aiden Ray agreed with me. He says the fusions can and do displace. Agree. Skip inversion. Look into it. And then Carmela says Trudeau says he has some vax policy for truckers. He better be careful they don't run him over with their trucks.
Right, exactly.
All right, we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, words of wisdom from Coach Rob and the Blueprint tip of the day. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Now, don't log off because the commercials are playing. Don't be like that. Stay tuned. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I have struggled to give up coffee for years. Coffee has destroyed my gut and it's impaired my health. Well, I haven't had coffee in months thanks to a product called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the first nootropic blend I actually feel working. One shot and I'm good all day long. My memory is crystal clear and I'm able to function and have great focus without coffee or caffeine for that matter. If you want to try a product that really works, if you're like me and you want to give up coffee forever, or you just need something occasionally that will help you lift the brain fog, Magic Mind is your product. I promise you that this product you will feel when you use it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic Mind, all one word, and use the code SHR for a whopping 20% off your first order. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/White Oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Magic network.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Have you been struggling to achieve results in the gym? Trouble sleeping through the night? Overwhelmed with stress or anxiety? Look no further than Infiniwell supplements. They have designed products to address specific needs like muscle growth, hormone balance, sleep, and anxiety from the first use. Infiniwell helps you live well. Go to shrnetwork.biz/bewell. That's BEWELL and use code SHR20 and start living well today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Hey, welcome back. Just a heads up, if you're not familiar with the Arx Training System, I'm fortunate enough to have one at home. There's nothing like it in the world. I'm not suggesting people go out and buy one. All I'm suggesting is that you learn about it, because I promise you that they are redefining effective resistance training. Just check out the website. Just go to shrnetwork.biz/ARX. Read the studies. We're going to be doing another show about them very shortly. They've published some amazing studies using this system. They've published studies that show if you compare it to people training for 6 weeks, 1 workout a week versus 3 workouts a week, a traditional weight training versus ARX, more muscle, more strength, faster. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to go out and buy one, because, it's a new product and they're always more expensive when they're new, but you need to learn about them because they are redefined. Nothing this exciting has been done in the fitness and strength arena for 200 years. And it's amazing. It really, I did curls with it yesterday. My biceps never hurt from curls. They hurt today. All I did was 3 reps. I just did 3 reps. 3 reps.
Wow.
But you know what? I mean, on the concentric, I was able to handle 140 pounds. Guess what I handled on the eccentric? 210 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't do that in the gym. Well, how am I going to do it? Tell my training buddy, lean on it. What am I? And it's not going to be that responsive. It's not going to be the second I feel it. And then when I couldn't hold it anymore, I just let it go. I didn't have to worry about injuring myself, dropping the bar. There's nothing like this. And again, I'm saying, people are going to go there. Come on, Carl. Who can afford that? Well, if you're a professional gym owner, or if you're somebody who is a personal trainer, now you invest in one of these, you lease it. Your clients are going to never want to leave you because they never want to stop using that machine. They'll get more effective workouts in less time, build more muscle, and get stronger. And you think they're not going to be willing to pay you $65, $85 a session?
Yeah, and you know what? To say it's long overdue is quite the understatement.
It really is. It really
Something
is.
like that.
All right, so what is the tip of the day, Rob?
Well, the tip of the day has to do with something we talk about all the time on this show, right? Critical thinking skills. And I gave this some thought the other day as to, where do they come from? Why is it even important? So in America, I don't know how it is elsewhere in the world, but in America today, I think it's fair to say it is vitally important that you exercise critical thinking skills. And the reason is that because, now more than ever, there is a narrative that is being pushed by the media. Traditionally, the source of information most Americans get their news from. And no matter what side of the fence you're on politically, it's the same wherever you go. There is no more news, okay, as it used to be reported objectively. There's an agenda, and increasingly, the agenda is designed to indoctrinate, manipulate, and control the American people. Without critical thinking skills, it's easy to believe everything you're told, right? So the question becomes, where do they come from? Let's start where they don't, since that's certainly fertile ground to find a long list of them. First, I think it's fair to say, right, your parents is a good place to start. I don't know about most people listening, but I did not get my critical thinking skills from my parents. And one example I always bring up is church. Every Sunday morning, as far back as I can remember, you had to go to church. It was a Roman Catholic church. At no time in my life, when I was young, when I was a young man, now, at no time did anyone come to me and say, hey, here are all the major religions of the world. This is what they believe, this is what they don't believe. Study a bit about each, and you decide for yourself which one or none is right for you. And if you ask me, when you bring a little boy to church from the time he can just remember, and tell him that that's the only church and the only real religion, that's indoctrination. Speaking of which, how about school? America's public education system is nothing more than a test of your ability to memorize stuff. That's it. Stuff like facts, figures, and dates. And you can see this. I saw this for myself with my son. It drove me nuts. You can see this with the facts that are being taught now about events like 9/11 in schools. Nothing is questioned. It's just how it happened. And you're going to believe it, or you fail the course. Now, how about math? Fortunately, I guess, my worst subject. Look, unless you're going to be a rocket scientist or an engineer, algebra 1, 2, and whatever's beyond that is useless in the real world. They would be much better off teaching these kids how to save money, live within their means, and not screw up their credit, And you can literally get a doctorate degree in this country, and nobody will tell you that, or at least teach it to you. My first exposure to critical thinking then was actually my grandfather. This guy was a voracious reader. He would sit on his couch, newspapers stacked, feet high. And he would point out to me how the same story was reported in very different ways depending upon the paper that you were reading, or wasn't covered at all, as the case may be and still is. He served his country in World War II and he loved it, but I'll tell you, I noticed a huge difference. When it came to our country, he loved the United States. He was so proud, to fly that flag. But when it came to our government, he feared it. And he was rightly skeptical of big government. Too much overreach and all the problems that go along with that scene that we're seeing right now. So that's where things started for me. It wasn't long before I learned to start questioning things myself. So here's how things intensified. That happened when I started asking what I perceived to be authority figures about supplements. So I'm 15 years old and I'm, looking at these things. So, okay, what do? I went to doctors. I consulted doctors. I consulted pharmacists. I consulted my chemistry teachers. And whether it was vitamin C, protein powder, or liver tabs, the answer was the same. None of that stuff works. You're pissing your money away. You're wasting your money.
Well, Jim Swift, I'll never forget when I first started working out. He's the guy who told me, because I showed him the research on powerlifters and cardiac remodeling, and I had a heart problem, and I was like, I want to remodel my heart. And he's the guy who said, well, just make sure you have plenty of life insurance. You don't want to leave your family in a lurch. And so one day I walked in there with creatine monohydrate, and he couldn't see me. I went to the front desk,
Yeah.
and I said to the girl, "Can you ask Dr. Swift if this is okay to take?" Now think about the naivete I had at this point. This is the beginning of my journey. I'm still a big fat bastard, and little did I realize that all animal protein has creatine in it. And she brings it back with a yellow Post-it note on it, and all it said was, "I would not take this,"
Yeah.
meaning him. He would
Yeah.
not take this.
Yeah. And so you're absolutely right. You know, even today, the highest praise I think you'll get from most medical professionals is, well, it couldn't hurt. But look, creatine wasn't even out way back when I got into the market. What was out was ephedra. And so one day I took a bottle of EPH 833, AST Research's ephedra product. I took it to the pharmacy one day, and I said, "Here." First he looked at it. I asked him. He said, "No, it's the same as your other stuff. It doesn't work." I said, "Okay. I want you to take 2 before bed tonight, and then tell me tomorrow how you slept." And his story then very quickly changed to, "I would never. That stuff is dangerous." You know, well, wait a minute. I thought you said it didn't work. You know, if it doesn't work, there's not much danger. You'll sleep just fine, right? And eventually, as you know, the ephedra works so well for what it, you know, as a fat burner, they banned it. Complete with a government commissioned phony puppet RAND study that in fact attributed at least one ephedra death to a young man who took some that morning, and then later in the day he was killed, tragically killed. He was actually decapitated while he was driving his car. He had a car accident. The ignore, it's dangerous, ban it to save the children nonsense continues to this day. And that is the same cycle. It's just a different spin on it, you know, now that they've got. It has nothing to do with public safety. It's all about the money. And, you know, ask yourself, is there a supplement anywhere as dangerous and deadly as alcohol or tobacco? Of course not. You know, I rest my case. If they cared about the public's health, those 2 drugs wouldn't even be on the market. So I would tell you the following. The next time the news, a teacher or a professor or social media cites one of their quote unquote facts that especially seems to support, you know, the party narrative, don't take it on faith. Do some digging, if just a little bit. Ask a question or two. And because if these facts are true, they shouldn't mind your questions. In fact, they should invite them. You know, be very leery of censorship. It's often used to hide truths and that don't support the narrative. Hiding the truth never ends well, ever. Think about it. You know, you can try, but sooner or later it catches up with you. And yet that is precisely what's happening right now. It has happened to this show for daring to question the vaccine safety and efficacy story. And if you do that now, you are a quote unquote conspiracy theorist.
Or no, you're a medical misinformation spreader. You're a racist. I saw a post the other day that anybody who's anti-vax is racist. There are black people that are anti-vax. You gonna call them racist to their faces? I dare you. Let me get a thing of popcorn, and I want to sit back while they pummel you.
Yeah. The labeling of those folks, some of those folks, as domestic terrorists is particularly concerning because as per the Patriot Act, which was passed after 9/11, if you are declared a domestic terrorist or a threat to national security, the Constitution is suspended. They don't need a search warrant.
How convenient.
They don't need a reason. You are not entitled to an attorney, and you are held as long as they damn want to hold you, without even telling you what you're charged with. That, folks, is scary. In this country, here's the real scary part. In this country, the FBI has already taken steps down that path. Internal memos from the Attorney General on down prove it. No critical thinking allowed. No dissenting voices will be heard.
That's why critical thinking requires courage. on a variety of reasons, one of which is you may be wrong as a critical thinker, and you have to have the courage to be wrong. But the other reason is because almost always totalitarian governments want to squelch any type of critical thinking. You're not allowed to question anything. Even if you're wrong in your questioning, even if it comes out and you go, oh my God, I made a horrible mistake, you're not allowed to question anything. Where have we seen that before? Nazi Germany.
Yeah, 1938. Nazi
And
Germany.
whenever we talk about Germany and Nazi Germany, people think that that's a far stretch. Well, when Hitler first started out, he started out just the way the Biden administration is. Little things, he started to suppress little things and control little things. And the next thing, and they never give back power. Once the government obtains power, they never go, oh, well, we don't need to do that to people anymore, so let's back off. No, they stay there, and that's where they grow from, and they keep growing and keep growing.
Yeah, so when it comes to critical thinking, here's really the bottom line. A free society is not truly free when things are being censored. Leave the censorship to the communists and the socialists, because as history shows repeatedly over and over and over, and it's happening now in Venezuela, those countries always fail. Do your part as a critical thinker, and let's not be one of them, because this country's getting dangerously close to rolling over. And I've said it before, rights are like muscles. You don't exercise them once in a while, you lose them. Exercise them.
Before, to the question about the pellet, Natalie, the producer of the video show, said that she's been on pellets for 8 years and she loves them. And if she feels horrible as soon as she starts to wait too long, she starts feeling like crap. So they're working. So yeah, pellets work. Like I said, whatever HRT you can get on is going to be better than not getting on HRT at all.
Hey, thank you, Horned Frog. Best blueprint tip of the day.
I know. Did you see that? Yeah, I'll put it back up again because I put these up while you were talking. Best blueprint tip of the day ever. And Aiden Ray said, Did you mention Plato's Cave? Or did I miss that? He said Plato's Cave. I'm not sure what that is. Awesome show, guys.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And that's it for today. Don't forget, patronize the sponsors whenever possible because they make the show possible.
Please.
And we will see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Don't forget to share the show. You'll go to heaven.
Or get censored.
Because inevitably you'll help someone.
True.
Inevitably, the information that someone will hear on this show will help them with a problem, or maybe motivating them to get moving on their health. And you will go to heaven because God will see that. He'll say, oh, my God, he shared Superhuman Radio. That person is better now. Yep. When he gets here, send them right in. There you go. All right. We'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thanks for being here today.